The year when a small earthquake occurred in the North China Plain. Fortunately, the earthquake was not large, causing almost no casualties or economic losses. If there were any economic losses, the unluckiest would be the stone in the 8th team of Donggu village by the Bohai Sea. His 3 mud houses collapsed. Because his house was of extremely poor quality, it couldn't withstand the cold in winter and didn't provide shade in summer, leaving him exposed to the elements. So, although other families only felt the tremors from the earthquake, for the stone, it became a homeless wanderer. Strangely, although the earthquake was small, a crack half a foot wide and pitch black appeared in a piece of land to the west of Donggu village. The village's rice and noodle processing room was right there, but it remained unscathed. The team leader, Hammer, looked at the pitiful stone and said to him, "Stone, your house collapsed, and no one can come to help you rebuild for the time being. It's not suitable for you to wander outside, so you can temporarily stay in the rice and noodle processing room." With no other choice, the stone rolled up his dirty and tattered bedding and moved into the rice and noodle processing room. It was the scorching month of July, and mosquitoes were rampant. The stone didn't even dare to light an oil lamp, living in darkness alone. The next day, 2 major events occurred in Donggu village. First, the stone inexplicably died in the village's rice and noodle processing room. Hammer got up early and went to see the stone, but despite making quite a commotion by the wall of the milling room, the stone didn't respond. Hammer muttered, "This kid sleeps like the dead. Maybe he did something bad again last night." Hammer muttered as he pounded on the large iron door of the milling room, shouting, "Stone, the sun's already out, hurry up and go herd the sheep." After shouting once with no response, he shouted again, still to no avail. Hammer became anxious and forcefully slammed into the large iron door, which swung open. The scene he saw made him shiver. The stone lay stiff on the ground, clothes intact but with his belt undone, his big eyes wide open. Summoning his courage, Hammer reached out and felt that the stone's body was ice-cold, already lifeless. Regardless, he was still a living person, and he died so inexplicably. Hammer quickly reported to the village, and the village reported to the commune, which then reported to the county. The second strange event was that the most beautiful girl in the village, Lu Su, inexplicably went insane. Lu Su's parents were extremely worried, not knowing what had happened to their daughter. They told the team leader that the previous night, around 9 o'clock, Lu Su hurriedly ran home, got into bed, and tightly covered her head with a quilt, crying out, "Come save me, the ghost is coming. The ghost is coming." Some said, could this girl have been possessed by something? Others said, perhaps this girl saw something that greatly shocked her brain, causing her to go mad. Team leader Hammer said, "Don't believe in superstition, quickly take her to the psychiatric hospital. The sooner the treatment, the better." Lu Su was taken to the psychiatric hospital in the city. The county public security bureau quickly arrived. They took photos, made measurements, and fussed around for quite a while, then proceeded to perform an autopsy on the stone's body. The final conclusion shocked the entire village. The stone died from a heart attack, and his gallbladder had ruptured. The forensic doctor from the Public Security Bureau told those present, this person had a congenital heart disease, possibly due to excessive fright or excitement, suddenly suffered a fatal attack. His gallbladder was also ruptured. But what exactly had frightened the stone? Or what had excited him to the point of his demise? This forensic doctor also couldn't provide a clear answer. The matter passed in this way, and Hammer arranged for someone to make a crude wooden coffin for the stone and hastily buried him. In less than half a month, Lu Su returned from the psychiatric hospital. She recounted an astonishing experience to team leader Hammer and everyone. Lu Su said, "That night, around 8 o'clock, I was walking back from the riverside when I passed by the rice and noodle processing room. I urgently needed to use the restroom, checked that no one was around, and with the darkening sky, squatted in the corner of the milling room. Just as I finished, I looked up and saw the stone sneak out of the house. I didn't know the stone lived there, and just as I was about to shout, before I could make a sound, the stone covered my mouth with his hand and dragged me into the rice and noodle processing room. It was pitch black inside, and I could hardly see anything. I struggled for a while, already exhausted, and just as I was about to catch my breath, suddenly, I heard a rumbling sound getting louder and louder, and the grinder actually started rotating on its own. Then, I heard some clanging of metal. I was so scared I didn't know what to do. At that moment, the stone loosened his grip on my hand, and I quickly escaped from the rice and noodle processing room. I don't know what happened after that. After listening to Lu Su's account, team leader Hammer cursed, "That despicable guy, the stone, got what he deserved." Everyone also said that the stone had taken the wrong path and reaped what he sowed. The villagers were somewhat skeptical of Lu Su's account, and even the team leader, Hammer, had his doubts. Lu Su was usually clever, literate, and honest, making it unlikely for her to fabricate stories. However, what she described was truly hair-raising. Perhaps there was indeed something peculiar about it. Hammer had always been a daring person. He once made a bet with someone to spend a night alone in a graveyard in the wilderness, and if successful, he would win a bottle of liquor. He decided to personally investigate the secret of the rice and noodle processing room. That night, he drank half a gin of liquor, and staggered his way to the rice and noodle processing room. It was already past 9 o'clock, and fueled by the alcohol, he lay down and fell asleep in the room. The next day, when he woke up, he found himself lying in the willow grove to the west of the village, a good 2 miles away from the rice and noodle processing room. He felt a bit dizzy, so he hurried back to the rice and noodle processing room, only to find the large iron door tightly shut. Hammer felt a bit flustered. He didn't understand how he had gotten out, why he had ended up in the willow grove, and who had closed the large iron door. His curiosity grew stronger, and he decided to uncover the truth. Having drunk the previous night, he decided not to drink tonight. He was going to stay here and see what kind of ghostly thing was at play. It wasn't even 8 o'clock yet, but Hammer, carrying an axe, had already settled into the rice and noodle processing room. He lit a lamp, opened Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which he had read 8 or 9 times, and began reading. Just as he had flipped through less than a page, suddenly, the grinder started rumbling and spinning, its speed increasing. At the same time, the iron tools, scrap steel bars, random iron wires, and even the axe in his hand, all inexplicably floated in mid-air, clanging against each other. Hammer hurriedly got out of bed and took a look outside. Everything was calm as usual, but inside the room was unusually lively. The grinder was powered by a diesel engine, but there was clearly no diesel now, and the diesel engine had been out of use for over half a year. Yet the grinder was rotating on its own without electricity, truly bewildering. Furthermore, aside from himself, there was no one else in the room, and those iron tools were suspended in mid-air, as if being held by someone, swaying back and forth, truly incredible. Hammer couldn't figure out what was happening. He tried to grab the floating axe, but before he could, it clattered to the ground, followed by the grinder stopping and all the iron tools in the room falling from the air. The rice and noodle processing room returned to the tranquility it had before. This scene left Hammer utterly astonished. It was truly unimaginable. After experiencing all this, he was determined to persevere and see what other strange things might happen next. He extinguished the oil lamp, despite being fiercely bitten by mosquitoes in the darkness, but drowsiness forced him back into slumber. In his dream, a gust of wind blew, and he drifted to the cornfield to the south of the village, then lost consciousness. When he woke up, he was astonished to find himself lying in the cornfield to the south of the village. He returned to the rice and noodle processing room, only to find the large iron door still tightly shut. Having experienced 2 personal encounters, Hammer believed that there must be something unusual in the rice and noodle processing room. He recounted his experiences to the head of the militia department in the commune. The head of the militia department initially didn't believe him. Having come from the military, he had been a company commander in the army, participated in the defense and counterattack on Zhenbao Island, and even received a first-class merit. He asked Hammer, "Are you a materialist or an idealist?" Hammer replied, "I am a materialist, but I must tell the truth. What I said is absolutely true, and you can experience it for yourself." The head of the militia department decided to give it a try. He took his pistol, loaded 3 bullets, and went to Donggu village with Hammer. Just as it was getting dark, the head of the militia department and Hammer settled into the rice and noodle processing room. They chatted and, unaware, the sky gradually darkened. Just as the two were about to undress and go to bed, suddenly, the grinder started up with a buzz, its speed increasing. At the same time, the iron tools in the room began to dance in mid-air. The head of the militia department instinctively drew his pistol, but the pistol seemed unresponsive, as if being controlled by someone, and he had to grip it tightly. He fired 2 shots, but the grinder continued to spin. Seeing this scene, the head of the militia department was still in shock and had to helplessly say, "This is truly strange." He reholstered his pistol, but it suddenly whizzed out of its holster and flew into the air along with the other items, swaying unsteadily. The head of the militia department tried to grab the pistol, but before he could, the pistol, as if someone had cut the power, suddenly stopped, and all the items in the air clattered to the ground, restoring the rice and noodle processing room to its calm state. All of this left the head of the militia department dumbfounded. It was truly inconceivable. After experiencing this scene, he couldn't help but feel afraid, but he also became more convinced that there must be some unknown secret hidden in the rice and noodle processing room. He reported all of this, all the way up to the provincial authorities. The director of the Provincial Seismic Research Institute, accompanied by his students, went to Donggu village. At the same time, experts were dispatched from the city, and the county specifically assigned a criminal investigator to accompany them. After nearly half a month of investigation and experiments, the experts finally unraveled a series of mysteries in the rice and noodle processing room. It turned out that everything that happened in the rice and noodle processing room was caused by a previously inconspicuous earthquake. Although the earthquake was not large in scale, it formed a crack near the rice and noodle processing room. With the slight movement of the Earth's crust, this crack gradually closed, but it generated a powerful magnetic field, thousands of times stronger than a typical magnetic field. The rice and noodle processing room happened to be located at the center of this powerful magnetic field. Therefore, this location frequently experienced anomalous geomagnetic phenomena. Once these anomalies occurred, they would cause a momentary reversal of the local magnetic field inside the rice and noodle processing room. When this sudden magnetic pole reversal occurred, the grinder in the room would start rotating on its own, and some iron tools in the room would be attracted into the air by the magnetic force. Subsequently, after numerous experiments, the experts gradually gained a better understanding of many aspects. This magnetic pole reversal phenomenon had a periodicity, occurring once at 8:30 p.m. and again at midnight, each lasting for less than a minute, and gradually increasing in intensity. All of this finally made people understand the truth. The unfortunate Stone, who was planning to do something bad, encountered the magnetic pole reversal phenomenon, and the sudden fear stimulus caused by it led to the instantaneous onset of his congenital heart disease, resulting in his immediate death with a ruptured gallbladder. The pistol in the hands of the head of the militia department in the rice and noodle processing room, as well as the flying steel bars, random iron wires, and Hammer's axe, were not the work of ghosts, but were attracted by the powerful magnetic force. So, how did the residents of the rice and noodle processing room sleepwalk outside? The experts explained that this was not the traditional, ghostly relocation, but rather a result of the disorder of brainwaves caused by the magnetic pole reversal, with the strong stimulus leading people to subconsciously walk outside in a sleepwalking state to avoid the interference of the strong magnetic field lines. Therefore, whether it was the head of the militia department or Hammer, they both experienced somnambulism under the interference of the strong magnetic field. In other words, their brains experienced abnormalities and lost control. However, people still didn't understand why the residents of the rice and noodle processing room, after suffering from somnambulism, would walk outside on their own, while the large iron door would close automatically. The experts explained that this was also the effect of the strong magnetic field. The experts further explained that everyone could see that the door latches of the two large iron doors were of the hanging type, and when people walked out, the iron doors were wide open. However, when the strong magnetic field occurred, the iron doors, under the circumstances of the magnetic pole reversal, were tightly closed by attraction. Once the iron doors closed, the hanging door latches would fall down, securing the large iron doors tightly shut. Later, the experts installed a magnetic field regulator in the rice and noodle processing room, and since then, no such incidents have occurred there. Subsequently, the powerful magnetic field in the area gradually disappeared, becoming completely consistent with other areas.